Hello, welcome to None of the Above. My name is Steve Nemirovsky. We're visiting today with Mike Abramowitz from Freedom House. Mike and I just completed a terrific interview about Freedom House and freedom in the world and the decline of democracy. You can watch that on Grassroots Television. It'll be available on my YouTube station at noneoftheabove.tv, and there'll be plenty of outlets for it. But we're going to do a recap for you now for those of you who kind of don't have quite the time yet to find to watch the half hour. I want to get you thinking about Freedom House. It's a tremendous organization. And among other things, they study freedom throughout the world and democracy. And they've been reporting a 12-year decline in democracy. I find this very troubling. There's some studies to show that there's a decline in thinking about democracy in our country, too. This is an eye-opener for me, and that's why we're talking to Mike today to get some insight. Hopefully we'll educate you, and then you'll want to learn more. So Mike Abramowitz, president of Freedom House. Mike, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Nemo.
So, Mike, this is the Blitz round, like on a TV show. They have the Blitz round.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about Freedom House. What is it you guys do?
Well, Freedom House has been around since 1941. We're a pro-democracy organization. We were created to confront the America First movement of the 1940s and to try to combat fascism and totalitarianism. Today, we're probably best known for our annual survey of political rights and civil liberties in the world called Freedom in the World. And we've been tracking the progress of really democracy around the world for almost 50 years. And the recent trends, as you alluded to, are quite disturbing, because what you see is around the world, in every country, in every part of the world, in every continent, every type of country, you see a lot of downward pressure on political rights and civil liberties. You've got more countries becoming having less rights and freedoms than those enjoying more, and it's quite concerning.
So our audience for this segment is the millennials we talked about, a younger crowd. Why should they care? Why should they care what's going on in the rest of the world?
Well, I think they should care, one, because, well, I'd say a couple of things. It's in their self-interest. I hate to kind of always trot out self-interest as point of view, but we believe that in the long term, societies flourish best in strong democracies. Strong democracies are more peaceful. We think in the long term, they're better off economically, you're more secure. And so if democracy is under threat, then your way of life in your own country is under threat. So I think it's very much connected to your well-being. And so you should really be very concerned about these issues.
And one of the things you've been tracking is the decline in freedom in the internet. I think that's
Yes.
very important to this crowd. What's that showing lately?
Well, what it's showing is that you have more and more countries basically cracking, using tools to shut down open discussion on the internet. For instance, even just shutting down mobile service in certain areas so people can't talk because they're concerned about political repercussions. You also see governments really manipulating the internet to try to inflate their support and undermine democracy. A great example of that would be what happened in Russia. Well, what Russia did in 2016, trying to basically interfere with our own elections here in the United States. You see that happening all over the world. The internet was once seen as a liberating technology that would allow openness and free speech. And now you see governments much more clever about censoring and repressing and clamping down on free speech.
And last but not least, I know you've got a report coming out tomorrow. Tell us a little bit about what's coming out.
We've got a report. You'll be able to find it tomorrow at www.freedomhouse.org. We'll link to it. And we've been working with with the George W. Bush Institute and the Penn Biden Center, which is a public policy arm for Vice President Biden. We always do things with both Republicans and Democrats because we really very fiercely believe in both bipartisanship and nonpartisanship. And our report did a survey and focus groups of American attitudes towards democracy and democratic issues. The report's not going to be live until tomorrow, so I can't give you all the details. But let me just give you one big takeaway. One thing that's heartening is that many Americans are very, believe in democracy, believe in our ideals, want to live in a democracy, which I think, is not always portrayed sometimes, but that's good. On the other hand, they're deeply worried about the trajectory of democracy. They're deeply worried about the influence of money in politics, about race relations, about gerrymandering, all the different things that I'm sure you and your show have talked a lot about. There are deep concerns about the functioning of U.S. democracy. And unless those concerns are taken seriously, we could be in a world of hurt over the next couple of years.
So, Mike, people are going to be watching this interview hopefully over the next few months. Tell them where they can go to find these reports in his most recent study.
Well, the best thing to do is to go to our website, which is www.freedomhouse.org. And if you go to that website, it will link to all our reports. It will link to the study. You can also follow us on Twitter @FreedomHouse. We also have a Facebook page. So either of those ways, you'll get to our reports. But really, the best thing is to go to our website.
Mike,
if you go to our website, you can also sign up for our newsletter, and you can get regular updates from Freedom House that way, too.
Mike, thanks for being a great guest. I think you got the troops excited here today.
Okay, terrific. Thanks for having me, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. We've been talking to Mike Abramowitz, president of Freedom House. If you haven't heard of Freedom House before, look them up, freedomhouse.org. They do some really incredible work. They talk about democracy. Democracy is not something we take for granted, ladies and gentlemen. You got to fight for democracy. You got to want it. And you got to make it work. These are difficult times for democracy around the world. We have our own pressures back home. Get educated on these points. If you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. Thank you.